Come on, do Nazi stuff.
Yeah, why won't he do the Nazi stuff?
Look out for Charlie.
Man, I was doing stuff. I was hooking up fans to my mini studio equipment, my house. I was working on drum sounds. I was just doing stuff. And all these operations go down at the same time. And I got to drop my shit and start making a video. Let's talk about the fog. Here it is blowing around at 6:30 a.m. That's not fog. Those are particles. And isn't it strange that all of this is eerily similar to Stephen King's The Mist? It's almost as if every time something happens, it has to have a movie or show or something beforehand that it can be compared to so that people can say, man, it's just like that movie, dude. You know, back in 2023, there was a haze like this in the Midwest through Michigan and Ohio, and they blamed it on the fires in Canada. There was an inspector checking out my dad's house, and he was coughing and hacking, and he blamed it on the fires in Canada, why he was hacking up a lung. And it was so ridiculous, I literally had to hide my laughter at his response. But this isn't new. This is either one of the many screw-ups over the years regarding altering our world, just like the blobs that came down in Washington back in the 90s, which they tried to blame on, and I shit you not, blown up jellyfish. Swear to God, they did that. Or it's a cover for something else, and they want people to blame the fog on all the pneumonia, ear ringing, and deaths, you know? Or it's just a delivery system and it's just in your face, right? So, you know, if you spend a day researching and understanding the Bolshevik Revolution, this is exactly the type of thing that I would expect to see in the 21st century. Exactly. Kill-offs, genocide, jamming the system. This is no different than a high-tech Molotov cocktail. But it's not new. And we've had chemical-based hazy days for years. This is just bigger and more widespread. Or it's a cover, or it's just flat out in your face. But, this whole fog thing is kind of awesome because it's that in your face, and only a complete and total moron could try to explain this away in his or her mind. It's not fog. This is not normal fog. But we had all these other things happen to take people's minds off it. Strange, right? Let me tell you a story real quick. 2 summers ago, we were in my living room on a sunny day around July when a burst of rain came out of nowhere. Came down heavy for about 3 minutes and then dissipated. Just a burst, and the windows were open because I'm not a fan of AC unless it's absolutely necessary. So as soon as the rain hit the ground, an unbelievably strong smell of mold permeated the house. You could smell it outside, everywhere. It was like a mix of chemicals and mold. And we immediately shut the windows to in an attempt to keep as much of it out as possible, but it was not normal. Rain and clouds are the cleaning system of Earth. A natural filtering system. It shouldn't be coming down with rain. And totally off subject, but let me mention this real quick. I mentioned the ground when I said the rain hit the ground. I want to mention something about AI and what seems to be incredibly strange people online lately. The ground is the ground, not the floor. Pay attention to that online. This is one thing that a bot or a large language model would have a hard time deciphering in its current state. Pay attention to how many people out there are calling the ground the floor. What has happened to people? Like, are they even real? That's a serious question. The ground is the ground. And when you are in a home or a building, you are standing on the floor. I find it very, very interesting that a computer would have a very hard time understanding the difference. And at the same time, there are all these people out there referring to the ground as the floor. It's not the floor, Artard, it's the ground. And while we're on the subject of things being pumped into our air and atmosphere, let's talk about things that are made of and from petroleum, like rubber bands. Rubber bands don't last a year anymore, if you pay attention. If you put one on something, or just put one in a drawer, it will look melted in a year or two. It would be totally easy for someone to look at this and say, well, they just make them way cheaper than they used to. But that really isn't the case. And I know this to be a fact, and I'll explain it to you. Back in 2023, I was cleaning out my dad's house when I got to the large filing cabinet in our library. This cabinet had been tucked away in a closet since my dad built the house, and it was rarely opened, and I mean very rarely. My mom had 2 drawers of this large filing cabinet dedicated to her business stuff, and in this drawer were some old manual credit card swipers / machines, lots of paperwork, and behold, a large bag of rubber bands, opened rubber bands. This drawer hadn't been opened or exposed to quote-unquote new air since the 90s. And guess what? All the rubber bands were like brand new and retained their elasticity. All of them. So after noticing years ago that these rubber bands seem to melt in any drawer, very similar to this filing cabinet drawer, I decided to take 2 of these perfectly functional rubber bands and test them. I put them in a drawer that was just as sealed as the filing cabinet was, but in quote-unquote modern air, right? New normal air. And I did this in the summer of 2023. And on December 31st of 2024, about a year and 4 months later, I pulled them out of the drawer. Now I'm going to show you what happened to these perfectly functional rubber bands that were over 30 years old and were absolutely pristine within a short period of time. This is one of those rubber bands that was over 30 years old and was perfect. I wrapped it around these cords and then put them in a drawer. So this one looks totally and completely melted. You can see where it's been eaten away in parts here, like something's been eating it away. Again, you can see that here. It's been eaten away. This thing sat in a drawer perfectly for over 30 years, and within a year and 4 months, it becomes completely eaten and melted looking. Here is the normal rubber band, had snapped and lost all elasticity. Over 30 years old, was perfect in a drawer. Here are both of them, and then the third one is up here, and that is melted too, or melted looking. And let me state again, these were not sealed rubber bands. They had been opened. It was a bunch of rubber bands in a filing cabinet that had been closed in a closet and within a filing cabinet since the 90s. And then within a year and 4 months, they become this in new normal air. Certain information really sticks with me, and this is one of those things. Back in the 90s, probably mid to late 90s, there was an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And there was an article in what I believe was a newspaper back then. And this article was bragging about the fact that science had designed a GMO version of Shewinella that was designed to eat oil. And they claimed that they had dumped a bunch of this into the Gulf of Mexico for the sole purpose of eating up the oil spill. But there is a serious problem with this science cult action of just dumping oil-eating Shewinella into the ocean and atmosphere. And it's a problem that's so obvious I shouldn't even need to point it out, but I will anyway. All creatures have oil in them, even human beings. So how do you contain something like this? Dumping oil-eating Shewinella everywhere. You don't. This thing eats oils and does all sorts of fun stuff like that, which happened just before people began getting this strange dry skin and Morgellons type symptoms. So how many people out there actually have blackheads in America anymore? Have you looked around at that? Take a look. How many people actually have oily skin anymore? I never see it. In fact, I see dry, scaly, red skin 1,000 times more than I ever see anyone with oily skin. So was this really released to clean up an oil spill? Because they had to know it was going to go after any oil and anything petroleum based. And guess what? That's exactly what rubber bands are. Petroleum based. It's a petroleum based product. And now, in our current reality, rubber bands don't last a year before they become eaten away, melted looking pieces of dry rubber that have lost all elasticity. And this is happening with all types of rubber, plastics, and petroleum-based goods, and the skin of people is showing the same signs, losing its oil, becoming dry, and losing its elasticity in people. You can see it everywhere. So in 2024, and especially after the invention of nano and very small man-made and man-made GMO particles, fog can carry mold, Shewinella, and just about anything in an aerosol-like fashion. This chemical fog will be ignored by all the climate change activists trying to convince you that your campfires and your pets are terrible for the environment. They will ignore it as their family members have spores growing out of them, right? Or in them, or inflammation and swelling in their sinuses and lungs. They will completely overlook real man-made climate change and continue pointing the finger at you as the source of Earth's collapse. And that's what they do. But the reality of man-made climate change is much easier to understand when you look at it very simply. We are using products and product packaging that is and was and has been forced on us We are living a lifestyle that has been forced on us. Even if you moved out to the woods and lived in a cabin, you would still be in contact with this kind of stuff, at least to a degree. And this is what they do. They force something into your hands, and then they blame humanity for it, when in reality, it's a very small group of people who make these insane decisions in order to later blame the population and common people for the crime. You know, if you are tired of all the plastic bottles and all the bullshit, then quit making it. This fog is the kind of thing that happens when you start messing with temperature, the ionosphere, the Schumann resonance, pumping chemicals into the air in order to make it conductive, in order to change the weather, in order to surveil the entire planet in real time, and on and on and on. Now, here's a video that someone posted of the fog, and you can see the halo around the sun there. I don't care what kind of excuses you want to pull out of your ass. I don't care what you say. In all my years on this planet, and all the places that I've been, these halos and trails and fogs didn't exist. And if you say they did, you're either lying or your brain has been washed properly. These halos are chemical, plain and simple. This is the same type of thing that you would see if you set up a light bulb in a room with all the windows and doors shut, sprayed Raid for about an hour, and then took shots with your camera of the light bulb. So please, be brave, commit to reality, and quit acting like a coward. Get off the fence. This is not normal. Like this guy, he posts about the fog, right? Like, so fog has never happened in Florida before. Tries to oversimplify it, you know? It's like a rat spanning tactic. And the weird thing is, he has no interest in it, but he brings it up so many times. I saw it so many times and so many posts by him about it that I started to question what his motives were and if he was even real. And if he was real, was he just a shill? Because it was very, very weird. You have to question that. They just start bringing it up and they can't stop talking about it. It's like those NASA guys that just happen to find every single video of people who criticize NASA and they post about it. They just happen to find every single one. It's like if they don't care and they don't agree, why are they finding every video or bringing it up so many times? It's questionable. I talked about that in my last video when I said that X was full of people or bots or operators like this. It's interesting. But yeah, he seems to have a problem with the fog. Now, let's dive into this CYBERTRUCK thing. I'll talk about the New Orleans thing later, but I don't have enough information on that. But at first I was like, man, that looks like a voice of God thing for sure. Just the way he attacked people. But I don't know. I don't know yet. If it is, they'll say he had mental health issues. They're not going to say he was hearing voices anymore. They stopped saying that. I think Myra May was the last one where they actually admitted it. Now, they knew people would put that together, that all these people are just hearing voices, so they stopped saying it and started saying mental health, right? With this CYBERTRUCK thing, this guy was allegedly pro-Trump, pro-Elon. He rents a CYBERTRUCK. He was stoked about renting it. He texted people and said, hey, I rented a CYBERTRUCK, you know. It's cool. I feel like Batman or so. I don't know what he said, some shit like that. But he was stoked about it, right? So the CYBERTRUCK ends up at Trump Tower, full of explosives and fireworks. The body is burned beyond recognition, but the passport and ID survives. Man, I am getting 9/11 flashbacks. You know, this fire melted the towers, right? And the steel gave way. Right, but the passports flew out right into the lap of an FBI agent who was walking around. That's what this reminds me of totally. If you believe that this guy did this, a self-driving car, he could have been shot, put in the car, and sent there. And if you believe that he did this, you are high off your ass. He did not do this. And I hope they screwed up. And this is the one time where I hope that Elon Musk or Tesla actually has some type of surveillance in their cars that the average person or intelligence agencies don't know about, and they get busted pulling some operation. Will it come out? I doubt it. But it would be awesome if they got busted pulling some false flag. He did not do this, though, period. Now, mark my words, what they're going to do is they're going to say, oh shit, these self-driving cars, they can be used for terrorism and all this. If it comes out that he was dead, think about the setup of the setup, then they'll say, we need to have these radio frequency ELF or health monitors, millimeter wave health monitors, to know that you're alive in the car, right? There's got to be a life form inside. It's going to be some type of clampdown bullshit. And then they need to know that the person's alive. So many things I planned on talking about in my next video, and all this stuff just happens. Boom, 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 boom. But it's 2025. It's a new year. And this is my message to everyone who watches this channel and all the people that I've spent time with during my days on Earth. Some of the people that I know and have known for a very long time seem truly willingly ignorant of reality. And I mean as if it's intentional, in a way that is persistent and incurable. And it's as if they have a fear inside them that causes an immediate shutdown if they're presented with something that hasn't been confirmed by a group or by someone who they believe is an authority, right? And that is one of the main problems. If you truly believe that someone else has to be the arbiter of reality, you have a serious fucking problem. Most people that I've spent my time around have been very receptive to any kind of information, but man, there are some serious cowards out there, and there is no one else who is more equipped to be the arbiter of reality than yourself. You know, these people, those type of people, bring other people down to a level of mediocrity and fear that is unsurpassed. If a person you spent time with can yammer on about all the theater they are observing in the world, but then the same person becomes uncomfortable or tries to change the subject when they are faced with information that makes them fearful or go into cognitive dissonance mode, they aren't worth being around in the first place. Don't break contact with them. Ramp it up when they bring something up. You know, if they bring a subject up, hit them with the facts of the subject. And when they run away because the conversation becomes uncomfortable for them, you've just filtered your own world from simpletons and mediocre people. You know, it's an automatic crab bucket flush. Honestly, life is way too short to spend your time around retards and those who seem to willingly let arbiters of reality govern their brain. But yeah, the moral of the story is the fog is not natural. This driver, renter of this Cybertruck did not do this. A self-driving car just shows up, and the rest of it I am very suspect of, but I need more information. But let's end on something a little lighthearted. This chick is upset because she wants to be a traditional stay-at-home wife, but she doesn't like the type of people that would do that and have a wife like that because they don't take meds.
Because they will exploit the shit out of themselves for money.
Right.
Then they're miserable and burn out and take it out on everyone around them and refuse to take meds.
That's their idea of normal. Working the shit out of yourself, but taking psychoactive drugs all the time to feel better. That is fucking crazy. If that's how these people think and it's this normalized, something needs to be done. But this one is really funny, and I just wanted you to see it because it is awesome. After I saw it, I had to edit it and focus on one part. Check this out.
I'm trans, and I am proud of it.
And I support my trans wife every step of the way.
Every step of the way.
Every step of the way. Every step of the way.
Yeah, barely.
I've seen this before. Who is that?
That's the guy.
What guy?
You know, the guy we were trying to get to do Nazi stuff. You know, come on, do Nazi stuff.
Oh yeah. Still haven't been able to get him to do Nazi stuff.
No, well, we keep trying.
Look out for Charlie.
I wonder if he'd be willing to do just a little bit of Nazi stuff.